This episode is presented by Anchor Branding.
I'm going, bro! Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. You'll probably be about as good as I was. That's kind of the way it works, and I was below average. So you'll probably ultimately rank somewhere around there, so really, you'll excel at a lot of things, just not this. I don't want you out here shooting this ball around all day and night, all right?
All right.
Okay? All right, go ahead. Hey, don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me, all right?
All right.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. You want something, go get it, period.
So let's start here. Chris Gardner,
Yeah.
is a genius. For everything that we're shown in the movie, absolute genius.
Yeah.
Can finish his work, does in 6 hours what they do in 9.
Mm-hmm.
First one to turn in his exam because he's got to go get in line for the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Why did he think that the bone density scanners were a good idea?
I had the same thought where you're like, this guy who not only is just smart, naturally smart,
10-gallon head.
he works so hard. So he has the skill and the ability and the willpower. That guy shouldn't be
Homeless.
homeless.
Yeah.
But also points to it does emphasize a lot of this movie where it's just like life kind of just knocks him down.
Yeah.
Like he's doing
So much of it is out of his
so
control.
much of it right.
Yeah.
And it's just knocking him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bone density scanners, that was just a stupid move.
Yeah. He was young and in love,
He
we
wanted
saw the
to take a
flashback.
picture.
Yeah, they were so happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't like that mom. Speaking of that mom.
Yeah, she's bad. I have a hard time discerning whether part of it is the performance that I dislike or if I just really hate the character.
I thought the performance was good. The conversation that led her to leave her son, like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You're like, that's how quick you made the decision to leave your son forever?
I'm his mom. He should be with me, right?
Should be his mom. No.
You can't.
All right, I'm out of here.
Also, the fact that he says you can't take care of him, she's the only one with a job. She's literally providing for all three of them.
That felt like it was implying something
Some
that
kind
we
of
don't
drugs.
Yeah,
or,
something off the screen where
Yeah.
because she agreed.
yeah. You're right.
You're like, what's going on there?
Yeah. Love this movie. Let me ask you this. I have a son. By the time this episode comes out, I'll have 2, which is crazy. I don't think I've seen this movie in fatherhood. This is one of the top fatherhood movies.
For sure. Yeah.
I anticipated feeling more different than I
Mhm.
did pre-kids. I almost felt less in awe of Chris than I did before kids because I think you just don't realize how much parenting takes from you. I don't know how you felt about it.
No, I had a similar. I mean, the climax of this movie is just awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal.
So moving and touching. I get what you're saying where you're like watching as a single man and seeing this, you're like, oh, that's so inspiring. But then as a dad, you expect like even more.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a segment. All right, let's start with Rose and Thorn. Do you have a Rose or a Thorn that stands out that you want to start with?
I mean, I would say my Rose, there's 2 big, undeniable scenes that are just so moving.
Yeah.
And it's the 2 times that you see Chris cry.
Yeah.
And it's crying in the subway
In
bathroom
the cave.
with his son in his lap. Oh,
Mhm.
dude, that just, speaking of being a dad, that moment moves me.
Yeah, that's the most painful scene of the movie.
Dude, he's trying to keep him asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And then him getting offered the job at the end.
Yeah.
And you can just, this is honestly a fantastic job by Will Smith.
Yeah.
The only thing
I think
you
it's
can
his best.
see, is his eyes. His demeanor, his outside demeanor is still calm and nodding, and he gets up to shake their hand.
Yeah.
But in his eyes, he's like total a joy, freak out,
Mhm.
panic mode, tears
Overwhelmed.
welling up. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
So those two, in conjunction, the moments he cries are my rose.
Yeah, my rose is a play on yours. Well, half of my rose is the performances of the Smiths, of Will and Jaden.
I literally wrote down in my notes, this is Jaden's best.
I mean,
Fortunately.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's 2006. You hear that Will Smith is making a movie with his kid. You think this probably isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
You see that title card introducing Jaden Christopher, whatever, four-name Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fantastic. I will say everything else is setting him up to be great in this movie, but he's 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
He is an amazing child actor here. If you're in 2006, you're buying the Jaden Smith stock. You're saying this kid is going places. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten an installment
Those places
from him.
are after Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of them. I think this is Will Smith's best performance. He was nominated for an Oscar, lost to a movie I've never heard of, The Last King of Scotland or something. That might not even be the right. I looked it up before this. But yeah, he was nominated here, and then obviously he won in that infamous Oscars. But yeah, I think they're both at the height of their acting ability here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's, because Will Smith's been in a lot of great movies that I really love.
Yeah.
I can't think of one where his performance shines like this.
Yeah, he kind of hits one of these types of movies every few years. What did he do where he was Serena and Venus Williams' dad, King
Richard? That's what he won the Oscar for.
Yes.
Yeah.
That felt similar to this, where you're like, oh, he's actually back in the zone.
I couldn't get past the dialect. The voice he did was just pain.
I think he's obviously an uber talented person, acting in comedy and music, and he's achieved a lot in all those. I'm like, drop the rest.
Yeah,
just act and stuff like this.
No more Fresh Prince,
dude. He dropped an album this year. You know that?
No.
But
here's the thing.
Let it go.
Here's the deal. His options are really limited right now. Like after he smacked Chris Rock in the King Richard Oscars.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously he was canceled for that. Whether that's fair or not, who cares? Yeah. But he's doing everything he can. Like, he's doing everything right. He made a Bad Boys movie. Like, he's working in the ways that he can to get back in the public eye so people forget. And you can't fault him. He's doing what he knows. What about a thorn for this movie?
I'm going to be honest. I had a really tough time thinking of one.
Yeah.
Really not a lot of weaknesses that I can think of in this movie. Like, nothing in my mind worth, like, pointing out.
Yeah.
Other than, we kind of mentioned in chatting just a couple minutes ago about, like, I just, you dislike the mom for, like, abandoning her husband and kid. You can't necessarily, fault her, I guess, because their situation was really hard and really terrible and whatever, but you just leave, that's not to do with the actual movie. That's more to do with real life, maybe. Who knows? So I don't really have a thorn.
Yeah, kind of same. Here's mine. Chris is entitled. Chris thinks that he can show up.
Hey, the movie where that guy literally struggles the whole movie to try to earn something for his kid? Yeah, what a jerk.
Listen to me. He's entitled. He shows up to the daycare and he starts complaining even though he hasn't paid. Really?
Oh, that is kind of crazy.
He twice, two separate times, he says, hey, you need to fix this mural. It's spelled wrong. And the F word's and the F word is written on it. And he says, hey, they're watching TV. I don't want them to watch TV.
And get this dog out of here.
And she says, you don't even pay. Go somewhere else.
Yeah. You were kind of like, ooh, sick burn. Also true.
And then, the cherry on top, he's telling Roy where he can and can't beat his rug.
Also, Roy was out there first.
So Chris is entitled.
He's cleaning his rug, and then they come out to have an argument. And then he yells at Roy,
like, Roy, get out of here.
Can't you do that somewhere else? And Roy's just kind of like, oh, sorry, Chris.
He says, I'm trying to keep a clean house.
Roy's on top of his stuff.
Roy's the responsible one here.
Meanwhile, Chris is just chasing that paper.
Slinging those machines. Okay, all right. Let's move to our next.
You saying Chris is entitled. I could just hear people logging off of this episode. Just the amount of flicks of who does this guy think he is?
Okay, let's move to another segment here. New segment that I want to introduce.
Ooh.
I'm gonna preface by saying I thought of this segment and didn't have a movie to put it with, and we're dwindling down on episodes, and so I didn't have an answer in mind whenever we decided to do this. But the segment is, we're gonna call it "That's So Sweet Life of" fill in the blank of the movie. So this is gonna be "That's So Sweet Life of the Pursuit of Happyness." For those that don't know, this may now be a dated reference, or you might be too old for this.
It's a very small window of early 2000s kids would understand.
That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana was whenever they would combine different Disney Channel shows, and it would be like this crossover event like they do on sitcoms sometimes. Yeah. And
it was awesome.
It blew your mind.
Oh, yeah. Stayed up late to watch it.
So this segment is going to be, we're going to take this movie and we're going to insert it into a cinematic universe. So that can be an existing franchise. It can be another standalone movie. And then we're going to talk about how it plays in as a crossover. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. The setting of this movie is 1980s San Francisco. So we're going to tick the clock forward a few years to Christopher, the son's wedding. The film that we're crossing over with is Mrs. Doubtfire. Christopher is marrying the daughter from Mrs. Doubtfire. This is going to be like, who knows, early 2000s as the setting. And we'd have to make this movie before like 2010-ish or whenever Robin Williams died. Really what we've got here is Pursuit of Happyness and Mrs. Doubtfire are both movies about dads who really care about their kids.
Yeah.
Really, really want to be with and spend time with and want the best for their kids.
Yep.
So the sequel, the crossover event, is going to be the leave and cleave moment for these kids. So Christopher and the daughter from Mrs. Doubtfire both love their dads, have potentially like an unhealthy attachment to their dads. The dads have a rivalry. You know, they don't get along. Will Smith, Robin Williams. And then in the end, it's going to be this moment of like, okay, I can accept you as my family, and we're all kind of one united group. And so that's my crossover and my.
Can I just say,
yeah,
I would really like to watch that movie.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
That sounds honestly really fun.
Yeah.
It's like what's the one that came out this year with Reese Witherspoon and Farrell?
You're cordially invited.
Cordially invited. Yeah.
It's like a little bit
that, but with Robin Williams and Will Smith as the rivaling in-law dads.
Yeah. And then they finally are family.
Now that is good.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah. What you got?
You want some films and things with different vibes, different feels.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
A dad who's just pursuing the American dream in San Francisco, same time, Full House.
Okay. Yes.
So there might be an episode of Full House where Chris Gardner is going to show up and he's going to give DJ Tanner a little lesson on how he used to sell bone density scanners. They're going to have a little talk.
Every time the laugh track goes off, he just turns into the Fresh Prince real quick. And then,
Stephanie goes to school one day. She comes back with her new friend she made, Chris.
Yeah.
Little Christopher. And he comes over for a little episode, do a little couple crossovers there.
Yeah.
And so they're going to show up in a couple episodes.
Okay. I like it. All right. Listener, if you haven't seen Pursuit of Happyness in a while, here is a recap. The Pursuit of Happyness follows Chris Gardner, a struggling salesman in San Francisco who seeks to raise his son through hardship. After investing in bone density scanners that fail to sell, Chris's financial situation worsens, and he loses his apartment and his partner. Life partner, that is. We're unsure if they were married. Despite these hardships, he earns an unpaid internship at a prestigious brokerage firm, competing against others for a single full-time position. Chris must make the most of every opportunity and push through adversity in the pursuit of happiness. So, I think there's some ways that we can go wrong with this episode. I think one is to overly apply. I think there's a strong theme in this movie that money will make you happy. I think that's an underlying belief behind the American dream, the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. I think this movie is actually not. I think there is a distinction in this movie between pursuing more money and really just trying to achieve stability.
Yeah.
And there is, I think, a biblical case that there's a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to talk about is struggles in life and the ways that this movie shows us how to operate within those.
Well, and I would also add to that I think this movie does make a case for the lessons learned and the skills gained through his struggle
Mm-hmm.
is what led him to happiness rather than the dollar amount he was making.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start here. Hardship exists in life. This is no secret. Everybody has experienced this. Everyone has adversity. And this movie shows us an example of pretty extreme, at least in our American sense, adversity and hardship. I think it's important to acknowledge up front that the world is broken and imperfect because of sin.
Yeah.
God, Genesis 1-3 lays out God created the world. God is perfect in his nature. God allows us to have free will. We choose to go against God's way.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the world is cursed.
Yeah.
As a result of us, as a result of Adam and Eve, all the way down to us. There's been no one except for Jesus who's lived a perfect life. And so therefore, because we live in this cursed second best reality world, there's going to be hardship. There's going to be, Genesis 3 says something to the effect of, we're going to try to work the ground and it will fight against us. Like, life is going to be hard because of sin. However, God tells us that he works all things
Mm-hmm.
for the good of those who love him. And so how can that be true if there's hard things happening to me? It's true because he's using those hard things to draw you closer to him. Because ultimately, the way that we are satisfied, fulfilled, able to sustain through hardship is in God.
Yeah. There is pain and hardship in the world.
Yeah.
But what you're saying of like Romans 8:28, God is still, he's not broken.
Yeah.
He's not, powerless. He's still sovereign. So when the bad things happen, when the struggle comes, when pain happens, he can still work all of it for our good and his good, which we may not always see in the moment. And he speaks to us and draws us to him in that. And a quote from C.S. Lewis's book, The Problem of Pain, is, we can ignore even pleasure, but pain insists upon being attended to. Then he says, but God shouts in our pain.
Mm-hmm.
It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
Yeah.
The idea that you can't ignore pain.
Mm-hmm.
When things are good, when things are fine, you can ignore God. You can ignore, anything outside of yourself. You can kind of just be self-sufficient. Pain and struggle and hardship point to the fact that we are not in control of everything. Mm-hmm. It points to our own weakness of like, oh, I can't just make this go away. I can't just snap my fingers and fix all these things. There is a weakness that I have. And if we're feeling that, then we have to acknowledge something else, and it can pull us back to God.
Are you bringing it to the game?
Yeah, I don't want to leave it. And maybe we're going to the game.
Where are we going now?
To see someone about my job.
I don't understand.
You don't understand what?
Are we going to the game?
I said possibly we're going to the game. Do you know what possibly means?
Like probably?
No, probably means there's a good chance that we're going. Possibly means we might not. What does probably mean?
It means we have a good chance.
And what does possibly mean?
I know what it means.
What does it mean?
It means that we're not going to the game.
How did you get so smart?
Because you're smart.
What do you think is different about this movie if the son's not in it? If we don't have that little backstory that he wants to keep his son, and it's just about a guy. How does that change the way this movie's told?
I think the biggest, like the most important difference is that the reason that this movie is so compelling is because pretty much everything he does is as self-sacrifice. It's not like he's just trying to make it even not even like for fame and fortune, like even just to get stability for his own self. The fact that he is laying down his life for his son, it just raises the stakes of the movie, that there's this element of selflessness. And also it's like the thing that's crazy about it is the contrast of the setting with the intimacy of the relationship. It's like they're in the most uncomfortable situation I can imagine, of like that, the rows of people laying on cots, random people around, and they're having this conversation. And Christopher says to his dad, "You're a good papa." It's like, dude, this unbelievable, because they're in this together, despite the situation, their relationship, their bond is being forged in this intense way. It's like Chris says, "Hey, don't break that unless you want to sleep in a room with me the rest of your life." And he says, "I don't mind."
Yeah.
Like that's sweet. What's so magical about this movie is the way that their relationship is able to continue to grow despite everything else. It's like the period of suffering and hardship is where intimacy with God is found. Psalm 34 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted." And 1 Peter 5 says, "After you've suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory of Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you." Once the hardship is over, those are the things that remain.
Yeah. I love the father-son dynamic in this movie. I think if there's not that father-son dynamic, this movie is not the same.
Yeah.
But I like that, thinking about this in this spiritual context, like we're talking about, in struggle, you can go, okay, I'm going to experience struggle in life, and, there's going to be good comes from it. Perseverance is going to produce hope, blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of be like, hey, I'm little Chris, and in the midst of struggle and in the midst of being in the homeless shelter, whatever, I have a loving father who's comforting me still. I'm not alone.
Yeah. The cool part of that is it's like Christopher Jr., he just has to rely on his dad. Like his dad is doing all the heavy lifting, all the hard work. He's taking on all the burden. Christopher just has to go to the place where they don't know how to spell happiness and watch Love Boat and, have fun, play basketball, and like just press into his dad, even though he's in an uncomfortable situation. It's like there's nothing he has to do to get himself out of it. Like he just has to lean on his dad.
2 Corinthians 1:34 says, "The God of all comfort," goes on to say, "comforts us in all of our troubles." Yeah. Like that is who he is. It doesn't say he removes all our troubles. It says he comforts us in our troubles.
It's not a time machine. Dad, it's not a time machine. The guy said it was a time machine. It's not a time machine. He was wrong.
What guy?
The guy. He was at the park. He said it was a time machine.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's not.
All we gotta do is push this black button right here. You wanna push it?
Okay.
Come on, man. Right here. Wait a minute. Where you wanna go?
I don't know, someplace from before.
You gotta close your eyes.
You close your eyes. I want to see.
All right, come on, we'll push it together. You gotta close your eyes, close your eyes. It takes a few seconds. Oh my goodness. What? Open, open, open.
Oh. What is it?
Dinosaurs.
Where?
You don't see all these dinosaurs? Look around. Look at all these dinosaurs. You see them?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, come on, come on. Wait, watch out.
What is it?
Don't step in the fire. We're cavemen. We need this fire because there's no electricity and it's cold out here, okay?
Watch out! Watch
Whoa!
out!
Oh my goodness! A T-Rex! Get your stuff! Get your stuff! Get it! We gotta find someplace safe.
Like what?
We need a cave.
A cave?
We gotta find a cave. Come on. Come on. Watch your back! Here it is. Here's a cave. Come on. Right here. Go. Get it. Hurry.
Are we safe?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, even in the first 2 minutes, the first dialogue in the movie, as voiceover Chris says, last time I saw my father was the day I was born. I never knew my father.
The first time I met my father, I was 28 years
that's
old.
Right. That's right. So I always knew that my kids were going to know who I was.
Yeah.
And so, one, we get this backstory on Chris, and two, we know what his purpose in life is. It's important to acknowledge that the fact that he didn't have a father, he's already at a disadvantage. Like, there's a level that we have to understand whenever we look at struggle, that life isn't fair. And everybody else working for this internship does not have the same level of struggle that Chris does. Like what we were just talking about with the curse, it's not like the world is broken, and it's broken equally for all of us. You know, strangely, this movie really makes me think of the parable of the talents, which is this story that this guy gives to his workers different amounts of money and says, go get me a return on this money. One gets 10 talents, one gets 1 gets 5. They all go and try to do the most with what they have. And so Chris, it's like that what he's been given is a really hard situation, but he's also been given this like crazy intellect, the 10-gallon head, you know? And so in this movie, yes, he's knocked down so many times, but he also has these little opportunities to excel. And so he has to make the most of every single one of those. Yeah. Basically, he can't miss in this movie because things that are outside of his control keep knocking him down.
And we will be right back.
Hey, listener, we just want to take a pause and say thank you for listening. We love getting to do this podcast, and it's listeners like you that make it possible for us. If you're not following us wherever you get your podcasts, what are you waiting for? Go ahead, do it. That way you can stay in the loop every time a new episode drops. If you know anybody who would love this episode or any of the other movies we've covered, don't be afraid to go ahead and share it with them. That would help us out so much, and we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much again for listening.
All right, listener, let's talk branding. Because if you want your brand to actually stand out, you need Anchor Branding Company. These guys are the pros at turning your logo into something people actually want to wear, want to use, or show off. From premium custom apparel and branded merch to eye-catching office signage or more, they do it all. And if you're thinking, I want to get my company's gear out there, but I don't want to pack a million boxes, good news. They do it all. They do everything for you. You need some uniforms? You need a swag store? You need something else? Anchor Branding Co. makes it all happen. Go to anchor-branding.com to get started today. Because if your brand is going to make some waves, you should probably have an anchor. And back to the show. The first verse that I thought of when we were talking about doing this movie and doing struggle is John 16:33. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Yeah. It's Jesus telling his disciples, like, that's a part of life. Mm-hmm. But also he's, you know, when he's saying that, when Jesus is saying that, he's telling his disciples specifically as a follower of me, like, you're going to have trouble because of me, because of this. Yeah. But in the movie, just the fact that, like, he can't escape life.
So the truth is, I was arrested for failure to pay parking tickets.
Parking tickets?
And I ran all the way here from the Polk station, the police station.
What were you doing before you were arrested?
I was painting my apartment.
Is it dry now?
I hope so.
Jay says you're pretty determined.
Oh, he's been waiting outside the front of the building with some 40-pound gizmo for over a month.
He said you're smart.
I like to think so.
And you want to learn this business.
Yes, sir, I want to learn this business.
Have you already started learning on your own?
Absolutely.
Jay,
Yes, sir.
how many times have you seen Chris?
I don't know. One too many, apparently.
Is he ever dressed like this?
No. No. Jacket and tie.
First in your class? In school? High school?
Yes, sir.
How many in the class?
12. It was a small town.
I'll say.
But I was also first in my radar class in the Navy, and that was a class of 20. Can I say something? I'm the type of person, if you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm gonna tell you that I don't know. But I bet you what, I know how to find the answer, and I will find the answer. Is that fair enough?
Chris, what would you say if a guy walked in for an interview without a shirt on? And I hired him. What would you say?
He must have had on some really nice pants.
There's these different moments that are paired with opportunity and hardship right next to each other. And I think that's what's so cool about this movie is the roller coaster ride. Is,
as soon as something good happens, something else just takes the rug out from under.
Yeah. So like he keeps working hard for this internship, even to the he does the Rubik's Cube in the taxi. He impresses the guy, but then he doesn't have money to pay the cabbie. And his wife calls him and leaves him. And then gets the phone call. You got the internship. Doesn't have a piece of paper.
Doesn't to write it down.
He's got the internship in the morning. He gets arrested for failure to pay parking tickets, and then shows up in his ratty clothes as I think the best example of the highs and the lows are so close to each other.
Yeah. All of these little struggles end up putting tools in his tool belt that are ultimately building him into this person with these skills and abilities that he has that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. And 2 Corinthians 4 says, we're afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. It's like the thing that's so captivating about this movie is the fact that Chris just keeps pushing forward. He never gives up. There's a very realistic world. You probably wouldn't expect a movie to go this way, where he just gives up and is a bum on the street and, is going from shelter to shelter.
Sure.
Because life is just too hard.
Don't you ever take my son away from me again. Do you hear me?
Leave me alone.
Don't ever take my son away from me again. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Don't you walk away from me when I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? Do you want to leave?
Yeah.
You want to leave?
Yes, I want to leave.
Get the hell out of here then, Linda. Get the hell out of here. Christopher's staying with me.
You're the one that dragged us down to this. You hear me?
You are so weak.
No, I am not happy anymore. I'm just not happy.
Then go get happy, Linda. Just go get happy. But Christopher's living with me.
Whenever she's leaving, he says, you're so weak, Linda, is what he says to her. And then she says, I'm just not happy anymore. And he says, then go get happy. As if to say, I know that where happiness lies is to push through the hardship.
He's kind of a mocking, go get happy,
Right.
as in, what you're choosing to do in order to pursue happiness is not actually going to lead you to happiness because you're going to regret it.
Yeah. Happiness is on the other side of the hardship, not in avoidance of the pain. And yeah, like you mentioned, there's so many moments that even though they seem like a failure or a setback, it's it's preparing him for something else.
Yeah. Romans 5:3-5 says, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Pointing to that idea that what you just said, there is more that comes from getting through the struggle. And that's just true of, anyone in life. And Chris in this movie, he pushes through, he perseveres, he's made stronger by it. But specifically, when we think about us as believers who are following Jesus, there's a greater hope that we have, that Romans 8:18 talks about how we are promised this future glory, this future reward, this future eternity with God. And so all of these things that we're going through now are momentary, and says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us.
Yeah.
That not only, on the other side of this struggle is something better, but also at the end of our earthly life comes the greatest thing ever, which is eternity in joy with no pain and no sorrow with God. There's this promise of a future. So it's not just hopeless. It's not just in vain like everyone else is going to struggle. We get to struggle knowing that, hey, this is working towards something and we're promised the end.
James 1 says, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for he, when he has stood the test, will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. An interesting little inclusion in this movie is, whenever they're really at rock bottom, they're in one of the homeless shelters, there's that choir moment.
Yeah.
And the song that they're singing, the lyrics are, Lord, don't move my mountain, but give me strength to climb. And Lord, don't take away that stumbling block, but lead me around. And so it's this, biblical inclusion here that the struggle itself isn't the problem. The struggle is an opportunity for us to move closer to God.
I watched the Christopher Reeve documentary about his whole accident. And listener, if you don't know, Christopher Reeve played the original Superman, big actor, and then got in this terrible accident where he was paralyzed his entire body. And he mentions this thing that's I think I needed this. I don't think I would have learned these things had I not gone through this.
2 Corinthians 12:9 says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. And so, yeah, we mentioned it before, but Chris said, I had to learn how to work quickly. All the things we've mentioned, built him into this kind of super efficient employee of Dean Witter. And ultimately at the end, we get that little moment of happiness.
I thought I'd wear a shirt today, being the last day and all.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. But wear one tomorrow, though, okay? Because tomorrow's going to be your first day. If you'd like to work here as a broker. Would you like that, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Good. We couldn't be happier. So, welcome. Was it as easy as it looked?
No, sir. No, sir, it wasn't.
Well, good luck, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, sir.
Oh, Chris. I almost forgot.
Thank you. This part of my life, this little part, is called happiness.
What would you say is the main things that at the end of the movie he has gained?
Honestly, I think the biggest gain that he has is just an increased endurance to push through. Because he's had to continue to get knocked down and get back up. It's that muscle is strengthened to where we see in the the little text card Like after 7 years, he goes and he founds his own brokerage firm and then sells it in a multi-million-dollar deal. Those skills are things that he acquired in this period.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, his story doesn't end there. It like keeps going.
What would you say?
I think about the relationship with his son is totally different than what it would have been had he not done this. And that came from them going through these really hard things together. But, you know, think about in the midst of this struggle, they are building this really beautiful bond that then they will have that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And they, in the movie, the two of them still walking hand in hand, and like they just have this beautiful friendship.
Yeah. 1 Peter 1:7-8 says, "In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief of all kinds of trials. These have come so that you can prove the genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." And so that's it. I mean, like the hardship, the struggle that we go through in life, it's not without value. As hard as that can be to see, it gives us the opportunity to draw near to God. As Christopher Jr. does to his dad, we can grow in intimacy with him. And like Christopher, we can grow in endurance, which produces faith, which produces hope. So yeah, love this flick. Will at his best.
It's really good. It's hard to like. I don't know when I would watch this movie again because you're like, it's just so stressful.
Yeah,
the whole time. And that's part of what makes it so good is because at the end, when he does get that job and he walks out of the building and he's in that sea of people and then goes and gets his son, you're like, you are elated.
Well, that's part of what I want to talk about too, is like everybody else in that ocean of people probably has circumstances just as good or better than him. But because he had gone through everything he just went through, he gets to experience this happiness and this joy that none of them know. Like none of them have experienced anything like that.
I think that's a really a good highlight of the impact of struggle is like kind of like that C.S. Lewis quote I said before, but it's like when things are good, you often don't realize how good they are. Like that kind of just feels normal.
Normal becomes normal.
Yeah, we lose the power of it. But when you know how hard it was to get there, when he gets the job at the end, it is everything. He experiences a much higher high than anyone else who, you know, that's just their job. And I like the moment when he goes out into the street and he's, you know, tears of joy celebrating.
Yeah.
I like the way that scene highlights none of these people around him know the struggle he just went through.
Yeah.
And so we can, you know, take that with us.
It also highlights how tall Will Smith is.
How tall Will
They
Smith
just got a
is.
bunch of really short people for that scene.
I did think about the camera work in that. I'm like, how do you get the camera to focus on this person? One, he is taller than one. Also, mainly white people walking around him.
San Francisco.
Yeah, it's such a good ending. But again, I don't know when I would watch this movie again because you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to feel all that stress.
And it does do, like we're talking about, like it does that thing where when something really hard happens, something really good happens and it's paired. But then at a certain point that stops. Like once he gets evicted from the motel, they're just homeless for a while and it's just grind for about
downhill
20 minutes of the movie where it's just depressing. And then you get that all-time high whenever he gets the job.
Really well written, well cut, you know, and produced movie.
Yeah, by a director that hasn't done much.
Really? What else has he done?
He did 7 Pounds with Will Smith.
Okay.
I don't know any of his other movies.
Yeah.
Get him back in the saddle.
But this, I mean, he did a perfect job of stringing you along so that the final moment really hits.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Great choice. Great discussion. We have a God who comforts us in our struggle.
It's true.
And works it for our good.
Yeah. And we'll be talking about how we don't have any control over our circumstances next week. Jurassic. All right. That's it.
Roll credits.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and on Instagram @The Credits Podcast. If you know someone who would love this episode, go ahead and shoot it to them in a text. If it doesn't brighten their day, it'll certainly brighten ours.